Lyndon Johnson, Jackson, Lynn, Bowman,
Present.
Cawthorn, Gage Watts, Middleton, Atkins, Chavez, Smith, Lewis Johnson.
Present.
All right, if everyone will please stand, if I'll have Commissioner Bowman do the invocation and Commissioner Doug Dominique do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, everyone, if you would, please bow your heads. Gracious Father, we come once again, Lord, with bowed heads and humble hearts. Lord, just thank you for this day, God. Thank you for forgiveness of sins. Father God, I ask that you just continue to bless not only commissioners and city councilmen, Lord, but bless all leaders and bless everyone who's even residing, Lord, in the city, the parish, the state, and the United States. And with the United States said, Lord, please bless our president and his family, Lord. Help him and touch him as he guide and lead us, Lord, to greatness. Father God, I ask you just continue to let no harm or danger come our way and help us to carry out the business of which you would have us to do. And even if we have a disagreement, Lord, help us to disagree amicably. It's in these are the blessings we entrust in your Son, Jesus' name, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. So place the flag and place your hand over your heart. Repeat after me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Are there any agenda additions?
I have none, sir.
All right, I don't see any. Next item.
Citizen comments.
I don't have any cards.
I
You
have
have
no
any?
cards either.
Next item.
Next, we have no visitors. We move to reports. Administrator report.
Wake up over there.
Hey,
He has
I don't
one
think they have
item.
anything, but
we
just
running. Might be the shortest meeting ever.
Y'all all got a handout?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was what I was just gonna go over that with y'all. But if you got the handout in front of you, if you got any questions concerning it, please let me know.
All right, we appreciate you.
Okay.
Next item.
All right, next we move to commission remarks.
We got done.
You had a question?
Yeah, is this on the, I guess this is a response concerning, is this concerning what the city and the other entities have done out there in Queensboro?
Just the city.
Yes, sir. It's just the city is what it is.
Okay, thank you.
But all those numbers are in there, several pages behind it, what's gone down, what all has been spent.
Okay, thank you.
We've already reported on
Yes.
Parish.
Are there any other questions for the administrator? How are we coming along with the tax assessments for those different parishes and counties?
The tax assessment with the different, what? No,
The detailed information of the millages.
That he
from the
requested?
different- I requested at the last meeting.
I wasn't here, so I don't know about that. I'm sorry.
Commissioner, we should have it for you Thursday.
Thursday.
Okay.
There's some that aren't
Got
Will
you.
as easy to get as others.
Right, I understand. The transparency of Caddo Parish.
They gonna email that to us? LB?
Caddo is fine. It's those
Well, I know Caddo
Caddo's
is fine.
excellent.
It's easy. I mean, you can go online and get it, but some of the other parishes you can't go on and get. So,
correct.
all right, thank you. Next item.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, you
Next
you
we
back
move
on the
to
board
Yeah,
again?
Eric, you gonna have time to email that to us, or you just gonna be at a handout?
I can email it once.
You want one?
If you get it done, yeah, I'd like to
Okay.
look at it.
You want a copy?
Yeah.
Okay. So send it to everybody,
Sure.
since I was the only one who requested it at the time.
Well, no, I thought it was a good request. I'd like to look at it, you know?
Okay. Fine.
That's it.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions? Next item.
Commission remarks, communications reports, and other items related to work session agenda.
Don't see nobody on the board. Next item.
Next we move to president's report.
The president is not here today, and she asked me to fill in to run the meeting, so that's why I'm sitting in this chair. Next item.
Next we move to old business. Authorized introduction of ordinance number 5840 of 2019, amending the budget of estimate revenues and expenditures for the capital outlay fund in the amount of $350,983 to provide funding for the E. Edward Jones Housing Trust Fund.
Move to advance.
Second.
Been moved by the chair, second by Commissioner Bowman. Well, 1 second. Are there any questions?
We talked about it.
Commissioner Dominique?
Is this is not any additional funding, this is the funding,
That
Same-
went back to a committee, and now it came out of the committee back to the body
but it's originally what was asked for.
in the beginning.
but it wasn't funded, so this is now funded. Is that correct, Commissioner? So it's nothing more, it's just,
No, sir.
okay.
This is just allocating the funds.
That's, there you go.
No one else on the board? Let's vote. That advances to Thursday. Well, yeah, with 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Next item.
Authorize appointment, reappointment to the Caddo Parish Port Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Dominique.
That's Commissioner Middleton.
Oh,
Middleton.
Middleton? Okay, my
And
bad.
second by Atkins.
And second by Atkins. The second, for some reason, is not working. Commissioner Middleton, you have anything you want to talk about?
No, I just go ahead and send it forward to Thursday for any discussion, please.
See no one else on the board? Let's vote. That advances.
Next, we move to new business. Authorize introduction of ordinance number 5859, amend the budget estimate revenues and expenditures for the Economic Development Fund in the amount of $15,000 to provide an appropriation for the global mixed gender basketball game.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Bowman, second by Commissioner Jackson to advance
That's the
this.
Thursday.
See no one on the board? Let's vote. That moves to advance.
Next, we have authorized introduction of ordinance number 5860, amending the budget estimate revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund in the amount of $3,000 to provide an appropriation to community renewal for the Allendale Food Co-op.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Bowman, second by Commissioner Jackson. See no one on the board. Let's vote. That advances.
Todd, I changed mine to a yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Record reflects 8-0.
8-0.
Authorized introduction of ordinance number 5861 to amend volume 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Caddo as amended the Caddo Parish Uniform Development Code by amending section 15.1 application to allow waiver of application requirements in certain cases.
Move to advance.
Second.
Been moved by the chair, second by, who was that?
Jackson. Both of us, but
Jackson.
his voice is deeper. It don't matter.
Moved by the chair and seconded by Commissioner Jackson to advance this. See no one on the board, let's vote. That advances, 8-0. Next item.
Authorized resolution number 11-2019, establishing a citizen advisory committee of the Juvenile Justice Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Middleton, second by Commissioner Bowman. Commissioner Middleton, you have anything you want to talk about?
No, I appreciate it. I'd like to move this forward. It's something we should have probably done a year or so ago to get the citizen involvement on determining exactly what's going on with all the financing and maybe take care of some of the rumors out there about how many dollars in reserves we have. And I know we are rather heavy on that. Now, Commissioner Atkins and I spoke, and it may be more realistically to go down to one appointee per commissioner district. I could accept that, but I'd like to maybe amend it to 3 months instead of the 7 months as it's printed out. And that's where I'd like to go with it.
So that's an amendment on it?
No,
Yeah.
he discussed it.
Okay.
So he can come back and make a motion, but right now he discussed it, so can't make a motion after the discussion. Commissioner Dominic.
Yeah, I'd like to make amendment to this, that it's one appointment for each district and that it's 3 months
Versus 7.
Second.
and that any meetings conducted by this committee that our legal department will have a representative and be present and our finance department.
Agree with that.
Okay.
And
And?
can I speak? No, I just want to speak on my, I want to speak on my motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, I don't know if y'all would be, but I want y'all there because of some of the issues and comments that have been made about, moving one amount of money from one fund to the juvenile fund. And I want y'all to be there to tell them that's a dedicated fund. It can't be done there. If y'all want to do that, this is what would happen. So I just don't want them coming back and making a recommendation and then us having to come back and say,
We're not compliant.
we can't legally do that, or, this is in the rural area, this is what you'd have to do. The other thing is, my first thought was 2 when I saw that 2 was a little bit too many, and I thought 1 would be a little bit better. You get 24 people, it's gonna really be,
Too many.
yeah, too many. So I would think that if you're gonna do this, it should be 12. The other thing is, I just wanna let everybody know, in case you don't understand, all these books are open, anybody wanna form a committee, come up here and look at this, they can. Hopefully, we will have our audit committee, and they will do, I think they're doing an audit on the juvenile justice system. So I don't know if some of this stuff will come into the light, but hopefully this committee will look at everything. So maybe one of the issues is turn this over to the Caddo Parish District Court. Maybe they could run it a little bit cheaper and a little bit more efficient. So that's just, I don't necessarily believe that, but I've heard that from a lot of different people.
Now we got a lot of people.
We are obviously one of the very few court system that has a distinction between the Caddo Parish District Court and the Juvenile Court. In Bossier, they either do it at the Bossier Parish Courthouse in Benton, and I think the city actually takes care of delinquency hearings of the juveniles, and that's throughout most of the parishes in the state. So that's all I have to say.
All right. Commissioner Lewis Johnson.
Thank you, sir. I agree with Commissioner Dominique as relates to representatives from our legal and finance. But since it is for the juvenile justice department, would there be a representative from juvenile justice on that committee as well? And I would suggest that if we are going to go outside of the commissioners, which is a good thing, I'm not opposed to that, but I think that it would be a reasonable consideration to have a representative from the juvenile justice department in on that committee as well, would be my suggestion.
Like Clay or something like that?
I don't care whoever they decide, but I'm just saying if we, it involves, juvenile justice, so. And if we are looking at our concerns and our interests, and we are, and we should be, then I think that they should have some insight prior to those determinations, is my suggestion, if you would.
You done?
I'm sorry, sir?
You complete?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Thank you.
Commissioner Atkins, I'm gonna be the last one in the first round.
I'll make the motion that we include everything that Doug just said, plus what Lewis Johnson just said, by adding someone from juvenile
Second.
justice to this.
Okay.
That's
Point
the
of
motion.
order.
Can you do it? Because you just,
You're amending the amendment.
that you amended to his earlier.
He has one more, this last one.
That's the last one, right?
To his amendment.
Yes.
Yeah, to that amendment.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. So we have an amendment to the motion to add not only the legal department to the subcommittee, but also to add someone from juvenile justice to the subcommittee as well. And that motion was by Commissioner Atkins and seconded by Commissioner Dominique.
May I speak on that?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Substitute President. And I also agree with Commissioner Dominique's recommendation that we go to 12. I think 24, this is a complicated issue. Having 24 people in that room would just be too cumbersome. So I'd certainly support the smaller group with representation from the parish and from the juvenile justice group. Thank you very much.
All right. Commissioner Jackson.
I'm gonna come back after we consider this amendment, because I have an amendment of my own.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't understand what,
I'm gonna come back after we vote on this amendment, because I have an amendment of my own that I would like to.
thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, I guess it's up to me now. I'm the last one on the first round. I'm totally against this because this is what we get paid for. we get paid to make the decisions. We have the citizens to our ears to basically tell us what they want us to do as their representatives. And I think this is just like kicking the can like we did with the Confederate Monument of forming a subcommittee outside of citizens and then not even going with the recommendation. So to me, it's just something that we need to buckle down, look at, do, make a decision on, vote upon it, and move forward with it. And not just say, well, we're giving it to 12 individuals to make a recommendation to us, and then we either go with it or not. I mean, we represent a parish of 250,000 people. And so how does 12 make a recommendation to those? So I just want to say that we just need to do what we supposed to get paid to do instead of just come here, push a button. We ought to do some legwork, do some work behind the scene, and do this and make this happen the way it should happen, and not just rely upon the Citizens Advisory Committee when there's difficult decisions to be made. That's all I have. Commissioner Middleton.
Thank you. My purpose in doing this was for these citizens to be able to look at everything that's on the table and underneath the table too. I know I attended a meeting the other day at the Bar Association, and they're going to put together such a study committee. I offer anybody to do, whether the media want to put together their own study committee. You say we're elected to do this, but so why haven't we not done anything in the last year and a half since it's been brought to our attention? We're going to be met with this deadline on 1 March. We haven't done anything except kick the can down the road. That's all we've done on it.
I think we have done something.
Well, I don't think we've done. We all understand what it is. This commission has enough money probably to build a facility. We understand also that the recurring operational cost is what's got us doing nothing for the most part. We are doing some things. We have a lot of programs out there that Ted and his crew manage, but it's still not enough. These judges are they're busting at the seams. There's no doubt about it. And I guess I could say if you become a victim of a crime and they don't have any place to put a particular person, are you willing to take them into your house until that court date? Or you just want them to walk the street? And I think they just need to have a little bit more room. Again, we're already operating below most detention facilities, and not only in the state but in the South. We got to do something, commissioners. And you say it's your job to make those decisions. So make a decision. Call it for taxes, call for a tax hike, or call for the citizens to call for the tax hike. And that way they can get in there and get involved, get their sleeves rolled up and see what's going on. Because again, there's some misnomers out there on how much extra money we have. It gets confused, it gets convoluted with what we have and what's dedicated funds. For example, just the solid waste, $20-something million. That's a lot of money. It doesn't quite take that much. And it's not just Commissioner Dominic's money. It's anywhere, all the solid waste outside the city limits of Shreveport, including Norris Ferry Road and those directions too. But I don't know why we are so afraid to bring in somebody else to look at our books and give us an idea of what's going on. My plan is I have a particular business person or two in mind that not only reside in District 8, but they have business in District 8, paying hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxes. To me, that's the kind of person we need. They know how it's going to impact their business. They know how it's going to impact their residents. And those are the kind of people, and they see how it's going to impact the safety of Shreveport and Caddo Parish. If we don't do something, then they see it all. And I think they can only come back and give us essentially a true bill that we need to do something, and instead of just sitting on our duffs and doing nothing. Because we've done some things, but some of these fundings that we've thrown out there are not even recurring fundings. These people have to come back and fight for them every year, or ask for them every year. I mean, I get tired every time I turn around, somebody's asking me, we need more money for this, we need more money for this, which I understand why they're doing it. They're trying to prolong the situation that we have, which is not adequate room to house the people that are be coming over here to from CCC. So again, I appreciate y'all listening to me. That's just a passion about this. We just got to do something. We should be at this juncture a year ago, at least, maybe a year and a half ago. So that's it for now. Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson, first time.
Yes, Clay, could you come up? Are you in touch or in tune or up to speed on what's going on with the raise the age juveniles coming over?
Yes.
Okay, and I believe that mandate hit March 1st, which
Friday.
was Friday.
Sure
Okay. Did y'all have this big? I mean, I haven't heard of anybody quitting or the floodgates opening. I mean, tell us what's going on as of Friday.
We've not had a single 17-year-old come in yet.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be somewhere between 200 and 300 17-year-olds arrested over a 12-month span. So what I anticipate is we're going to get one a day, one every 3 days. We haven't had any now since Friday, but we could later on this week. We'll get one or two. That's how it's going to happen. It's going to trickle in, and the problem is going to be in the processing. If we can process them out quickly to move them out, we'll be fine. If they're more serious cases, or if the judges are concerned that they could run, they'll hold them, and that's when we'll get backed up.
Mm-hmm. And so have y'all went ahead and purchased the additional monitors and all of that other preventive?
Everything else has been done that we've been to prepare for it. So we are ready. We were ready a few months ago in terms of all the monitors. We were ready, and we're now just kind of waiting for this increase to come in.
So have y'all sat around and just kind of twiddled your thumbs on this issue, or kick the can
Sit on your
and
boots.
sit on your bottoms?
No, sir.
I mean,
No,
well,
sir.
How do y'all feel y'all are prepared? Because you, Muriel, and your staff will be the ones that will be responsible for moving this forward. How do y'all feel? Because if there's a panic, I have not heard it from you.
It's not a panic. My concern is that our high months, April, May, and October, are going to be the months when the judges will have to make decisions about who gets released. We do have more monitors, and we're going to follow those kids to see if we maintain safety. Our plan was to then report back to you all, to the judges, to Dr. Wilson and Mr. Lucky, to report back if we are maintaining safety.
So sounds like, based on historical data that I've assumed that you have looked at, analyzed, 'cause you're a data cruncher. I noticed that.
Yes.
It sounds like you already know what months
Yes.
that y'all can see this uptick. So it sounds like you think that y'all are at least equipped to handle it right now, and you'll let us know if there's some overflow. What about alternative places? Do we have that where you can send people or something like that?
We've
or are
worked
we
out-
out of those options?
We've worked out all the alternative placements we can legally. As of right now, there is no other option in terms of, Bossier has no facility. There's no other place where we could send and rent beds to send kids to right now. But we do have other options for local kids if we can get them into other placements.
And they have space. It sounds like they have space.
They do.
Okay. I just, I don't know, you're the subject matter expert on it. And if we're gonna lean on subject matter experts on issues that come before the commission, I don't know why we're not leaning on the subject matter experts on this particular case. And so, that's what I don't see is, I haven't heard you, and I appreciate what y'all have done over the last 3 years, 'cause I think we had a delay in the work and all the information that you have provided us, because Friday has come and gone, and I don't just see where this hysteria, that just everything is out of control. Do you know where that may be coming from, or what's driving it, or what? It reminds me of the 1992 crime bill or something, where everything we got to crack down.
Yeah, we're not seeing any hysteria about it. I mean, I think the concern from some folks is that over time, over several months, if we are holding some of these 17-year-olds, that we then may have to release some other children we've held before. The question is going to be whether or not we can do that maintaining safety.
And that's your point about processing them in and out. Is
We'll
that
have
an
to do
internal
that.
function that y'all have, or the court? Whose does that fall to?
That's part of what gets complicated. You're talking about, to some extent, working with police and sheriff as the primary law enforcement agencies that bring the kids in, working with the DA's office and the public defenders and the judges. All of those folks at the table would have to agree to this process moving pretty smoothly to get kids out when we need to get them out. That's what's been working for years, and it does work pretty well. The concern is going to be, come April, May, and October, will we have the capacity with only 24 beds? The bottom line is that other jurisdictions that have done this explain that when you add the 17-year-olds, it puts in perspective the 12 and 13-year-olds, that you're not as worried about them, and that we do release those, and it may not cause trouble.
Right.
The fact is, we will follow those kids and report back to you if it is causing trouble. Of course, the concern is that if we report back that it is a problem and we're seeing an increase in recidivism, how long will it take to build, and where would that money come from? Because as of right now, as you know, it's not in juvenile's budget.
Right,
So it's that time frame. If we had to add beds, how long would that take? I think that's the concern. In terms of the Commissioner Middleton's commission, obviously we're happy to open the operations, the books, and show everything to that commission that they would need to come give you, to some extent, an independent answer to these questions. But we're happy to continue to answer them, happy to also talk with those folks, whatever works.
Thank you, Clay. Thank you, Mr. Acting President. That's it.
Commissioner Dominique.
Yeah, a lot of things I believe have been said really good up here, and there's differing views. And I'm going to address that. But first I want to address is some things that have been said on the radio, I guess, particularly, Keel, when I was listening to them the other day. They have said that the commission will not build it. And basically said, Judge Young said the commission will not build it. I don't believe Judge Young has ever said that. I believe what he said, and specifically has said and agrees, that we do have money in our reserve to build the jail, but we don't have the continued operation expenses once the jail has been built. I've never heard him say that, but that's what they were saying. And of course, this is misnomers when you're going out to a radio station that is covering a lot of people, and people start thinking, well, why don't y'all build it? We can build it. We could use reserve trust funds or reserve monies. We don't have 150 million, and that's what they were saying too. We have 150 million in reserve trust, or reserve funds. A lot of that is dedicated and cannot be used. So I just wanted to clear that up, because Judge Young has been adamant that we need to build a new jail, but he has been on our side to say he realizes that we have the money to build a jail. The problem is where we're going with the operation costs. One thing that LB says specifically goes back to the same thing I can always say. We live in a republic. We're represented. We're the ones that ultimately make the decisions. So I specifically understand and see your point of view on that, because I kind of leaned on that. Well, should we or should we not? But at the same time, I see Commissioner Middleton's point of view, specifically if they come back and say that they looked at this, and Judge Young's recommendation on this too, that if you have an independent committee that actually said we need to increase taxes, it may make it, they came back and said there was no other alternative. They looked at everything and we needed to have an increase in taxes. It may make it easier for the people and citizens of our parish to vote for an increase. However, as we all know, I believe we've tried, is it 5 times, Randy?
Yes, sir.
Just 90s
5.
For this increase, and I specifically said, citizens seem to care about the roads and the parks more than they do juvenile, and I guess the main reasons, what someone said over here, you're not touched by it. Once you're touched by it, you understand. Because I've always said the juvenile justice system is one of our most important things that this Caddo Parish Commission body does, but it's probably the most least recognized and considered and appreciated by the people, the Caddo citizens. Get a dog hurt, this room will be full. And you know it. So, Commissioner Middleton, I do understand your recommendation on this, but at LB, I understand yours too. And Commissioner Jackson, you're hitting the nail on the head too when the things has been said that we're not doing anything about it. We were given, and I was the chairman of the Juvenile Justice Committee and worked closely with Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts, who was chairman last year when I was president. What are we going to do? We were given 3 opportunities. We asked the juvenile department, Clay, Dr. Wilson, to come up with some alternatives. There was 3, Clay, is that right? Where are you? I can't see you back there.
Yes.
Clay, can you come up, please?
Yes.
You better stay up front. So if I remember, there was 3 alternatives or 4, I can't remember.
We actually presented 5 options,
Okay.
A through E.
All right, there was 5 different options.
Yes, sir.
And the recommendation by the committee, which was also adopted by the commission, was to go with the one that we're currently going with, which specifically indicates and says that we're gonna do what we can do based upon the money and the funds that we've been given, and increase monitors, maybe additional probation officers if we need them, but we haven't funded that yet, if I'm correct.
Additional staff in detention, additional monitors.
And see how that goes, and if it, then come back with more recommendations on safety concerns. So that's what we've done. So we haven't just not done anything.
Right.
So we have done some stuff, but some items and some things to prepare. We just didn't stick our head in the sand and not do anything. But all this being said, the continuation of different individuals, and particularly Judge Young's being out front. I know he's talked to a lot of different organizations on this. I'm okay with the recommendation as it stands right now, for y'all to be there, legal department to be there, economic department to be there, and it be 1 instead of 12.
I'm good with that.
24, 12. I think I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Acting Lyndon B. Johnson.
All right, so, okay, one thing I wanted to say is that, for one, no, I'm fine, I'm gonna go, since I'm acting, I'm gonna go ahead. Citizens can't call for a tax hike. They can basically make a recommendation to us so that we can decide if we wanna do it or not. So I want to clarify that, because miscommunication goes a long way in Caddo Parish. We've had 5 options that what Clay just said, and we chose to go with the option that we currently have. So to engage a subcommittee to come in behind us to say, well, we want to look at the books. Any citizens can come and look at the books at any time. You got public record requests, and we got plenty of citizens that request records all the time. So as far as the books are concerned, I think Caddo is one of the most transparent parishes, and not only because I sit on this body, it's because what I see just going to the internet and just talking to other people, we have more stuff that's more visible to the public than anyone else. And I just think that it'd be wasting people's time. If we build a jail, we know we can build it with the funds we currently have, but we still have to maintain it. And then from any of the tax recommendations that we've had over the last 4 or 5 years, we have commissioners that sit up here and say, I'm against the tax. So you're against what we sitting up here talking about in the first place. So why gonna support one tax over another tax when it's about funding Caddo Parish Commission? And I'm totally against building additional beds so that eventually just to say, well, we don't have any alternative measures, we just gonna lock up everybody. I'm not gonna go for that. So if that's a recommendation from some of the members up here, I'll be totally against it. We should be able to work other alternatives, because these are teenagers where you can actually get in and mold their minds before they get to be an adult, and then by that time you can't adjust it. There's just too many different alternatives that could be in play with that. And one example we talked about one time was, say you had a kid that went and stole something out of the store. Well, you need to find out why he went and stole something, because he could have been trying to take care of his younger sister, younger brother. I mean, this is common. This is not just something that's new, but this is common. I mean, that's the only way that he knows that he can feed his children, his siblings. So, I mean, to lock him up, then what you gonna do with the siblings? You gotta find a place for them to go, because they hadn't committed a crime. So we gotta have alternatives to that. Also, if a 17-year-old commits a violent crime, guess what? They stay at CCC. They don't come over. So,
What's that?
if a 17-year-old commits a violent crime,
Up until next year.
Right.
but if he still commits a
No.
crime, he can still be charged as an adult.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, if it's
Clay?
murder,
They go to juvenile.
It still goes juvenile
Well,
first.
they still gonna go right back.
Yeah, they still gotta go there.
I'm happy to say y'all are both right, but I think what you're talking about is any of the more serious
Murder.
rape,
Right.
armed robbery,
Right.
those can be charged as adults.
As an adult.
Yes.
That's
But
what
they
I'm
stay
talking
at
about.
the detention center.
They stay at the detention center till the hearing on probable cause, about 2 weeks, and then they go to CCC as an adult. The law does say we could house those kids.
Could.
We could. It's
Not,
at
not
that
shall,
point,
but could.
could. It's actually up to the district court judge if we would hold those kids, the transfer kids. We definitely will not have room for that.
And we own the parish jail, right? Or who determine, I don't need to speak out, or who determines?
And that's the district court judges.
Okay. And wouldn't a judge fast track something like that to CCC? Or would they sit on that? Like some people say we're sitting on this right now.
That's really more up to the DA in terms of how quickly they would move on that determination to charge as an adult.
Okay. Thank you, Clay.
Yes.
John Atkins.
Thank you,
Go too
sir.
far, Clay.
First of all, I think Clay Walker and his team have done a great job on working through this. I think they run a good program out there. And Commissioner Johnson, I agree with a lot of what you say, that that's our job to make those decisions. But we have a judge asking us to put a committee together to take a look at it. Out of respect for him, I'm willing to have a committee take a look at it. I think that, obviously, we're a AAA bond rated organization. I think we're a pretty well run organization as a whole. There's always room for improvement, and I'm open to have people take a look at things and telling us how we might adjust. But, so that's why I'm on board with the possibility of having a committee take a look, to try to be supportive of a judge who's asking for that and to show our open door policy.
Okay, so judge asked for this.
Yeah.
He didn't ask me.
Yeah,
He
committee.
came to-
Yeah,
came
it's
to-
a committee.
He
Came to
came
committee
to us
meeting.
and asked that, I think, didn't he?
It was a committee meeting.
Okay.
It was
All
a
right.
juvenile
Okay.
justice committee meeting.
Okay. I didn't sit in that juvenile
Yeah.
justice
And
committee.
I just happened to be sitting in on that.
Okay.
I'm done, thank you, sir.
Commissioner Middleton, is this your third time?
It would be.
So we only limited to 2 times. So the motion,
Okay, so then we need to go to.
so the amended motion is,
The amended
Wait.
motion is to,
Don't forget.
I have to talk to the chairman.
He will suspend the rules.
I didn't know if it was in order to suspend the rules so that Mike could speak, Commissioner Middleton could
if
speak.
you gonna make a motion?
Motion.
That's a
I would
motion.
make that motion, yes.
Got a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor to suspend the rules to allow a third time. Been moved by Commissioner Lewis Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Doug Dominique. Need to vote on that. That passes.
Well, thank you.
Just remember that next time
Commissioner Middleton?
somebody else is trying to.
Thank y'all. Now, I'll make sure I keep myself in check. Appreciate everything everyone has said up here. And to me, to say we've been sitting on our duffs and doing nothing, it only has to do with the building and having the associated operating cost. That is what I'm speaking of. Clay, Ted, everyone has done an excellent job as all that. But as the judges have to determine who they're going to release so they can put the more severe criminal suspect in jail, then that's where the hiccup's gonna be. I just hope it doesn't come out like the governor's, what you call it, the act he did recently on the Corrections Act and all that, where somebody's out on the street that should not be out on there and kills 2 people and burns their bodies. That's it, thank you. That'd be the Caddo Parish Commission reinvestment.
Mr. Clerk, could you give us the last amended motion so we
Yes,
can
sir.
need to see?
Motion
vote?
was, by Atkins, Mr. Dominic, to amend resolution number 12 to make 1 appointment per district, making 12 members. That the appointment also, the committee, Justice Committee, come back within 3 months after all committee members are appointed with their findings, that legal, finance, and juvenile justice, or juvenile justice be added as members of the committee.
All right, so we're gonna vote now for the amendment, to accept the amendment.
Well, mine wasn't for them to be members, but just to be present.
It was
I want them
pres-
there,
It was present at meetings, is
present
what
at
you
the meeting, because
said.
I don't want.
Do you want them ex officio, is what you're wanting to do?
That's,
He
that's,
just wants to make sure that
A representative,
someone
yeah.
from legal and finance are in the room at each of the
Correct.
meetings that they have.
What about the
And
the juvenile?
Yeah.
yes,
Representative as
Okay,
well.
all that be ex officio or in attendance?
Yes,
in
sir.
attendance.
Okay.
Non-voting people.
Yeah, I don't want them voting.
Okay. So we might want to have charter review again. Okay, so let's vote on the amendment, amending the motion. All right, that passes. Now,
Okay, so that sends that to Thursday.
No.
Now
no,
we gotta come back. to
Now
the-
you gotta, now you gotta
Another
vote
amendment.
as amended.
Right.
Gotta
to
vote
send
as
to
amended.
Thursday.
Right.
Mr.
Right.
Chairman,
yes, sir.
I have a amendment. I would like to amend resolution number 11 to add as one of the reviews, alternatives to incarceration. If I get a second, I can explain.
Second.
So we have a motion on the floor now to amend the resolution number 11 to add
Alternatives to incarceration.
to incarceration. And it's been seconded by Commissioner Lynn.
Yes, and, you know, and this is not to say that I'm gonna vote in favor to move this forward, but I wanted to add this because I see there are only 3 options that we have, deals with financing, housing options, and effects of those upon juvenile crime in Caddo Parish. And just listening to the conversation around the horseshoe and listening to Clay, what's missing from this is any type of alternatives to incarceration. It seems like the only answer that we seem to have is build a new jail. And we have consistently heard that cry. What we do not hear enough of is alternatives. And if we're gonna use that AAA bond rating that I hear my colleagues talking about, I would more than likely be inclined to use that AAA bond rating to build something that's gonna create a better quality of life as opposed to, I think it's called the dream of field. What is the Field of Dreams or whatever?
Yeah.
And the Field of Dreams says if you build it, they will come. My theory is if we build it, we will fill it. And so if we add 24 more beds, we're going to find a way to put 24 people at all times in those 24 beds. Clay?
Yes.
Is there ever a time?
Yeah.
Is there ever a time where you don't have a full house? Is there ever a time?
Friday, we had 17. Today, we have 20. We have an average of 19 a day last year. So if we have the average of 19, some days we're above that, some days we're below
Is
it.
there ever a time where you have to send people home? Hey guys, we just don't have enough work for you. Please go home, take the day off, leave
No.
home early.
No, with staff, that does not happen, no.
Okay. Have you ever had a time where, other than financial hardships, where you just had to say, you know, it's just not enough work. We might have to lay people off or something like that?
No, sir.
Okay, so it seems like this is something that grows and grows and grows, or at least stays where it is.
It stays, like I say, an average of 19 a day, we stay relatively busy. As I said, April, May, October, we'll be at 23, 24 a day and regularly meeting to figure out who we can let out if we get in one more.
Okay, but that's my fear, is that if we build it, there'll be a way or find a way to fill it up. And I know that's probably your concern as well in some instances is, you know, the more we add, the more we're gonna be inclined to fill it up. And so I'd like to see us consider some type of alternatives and let that committee look at alternatives. If we send them in with a zero-sum focus of build a jail, finance a jail, and housing options, then that's all they're gonna come out with us with is build a jail. And so I think they need to look at alternatives to incarceration. So that's why I propose that amendment.
Commissioner Lewis Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can appreciate Commissioner Jackson's position there, even though you just said that as it related to this overall subject, and this particular amendment is about the jail, and there's obviously some level of less than comfort with citizens in that respect, but I think that we can appreciate the benefit of citizens having input on the needs for the facility itself. But with you having made comments or as relates to subject matter experts for this, I certainly think, and I think that alternatives to incarceration is certainly an area that needs to be addressed. And I think that as this subject moves forward, that it would be prudent in order to do that. But I certainly question whether or not discussing alternatives to incarceration by a citizens panel is what we wanted to accomplish with this amendment. So for that reason, I think that that certainly should be addressed by the subject matter experts, as opposed to putting that on the plate of citizens to look at and discuss incarceration or alternatives to incarcerations, which is a very important issue. And if we go there, I really think that this thing can really grow a whole lot further than what the initial amendment was intended to do. So as I understand and respect your position on that, I am opposed to citizens weighing in on alternatives to incarceration at this point. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Doug Dominique.
Yeah, I make a good point there, Commissioner too, yes. And I respect your opinion. I understand exactly where you're kind of coming from. But I don't know if, I just want to say this on behalf of everybody, because you say that if we build it, we're going to fill it. I just, hear Clay talk. I've heard, Judge Young speak. I know what they've done over there. I mean, I really think they've worked hard to try to keep that level down. I think Judge Young is looking at the numbers, with the numbers during the high months, and the fact that there's going to be an increase with 17-year-olds, because you can even look at CCC and see that there are a certain number of 17-year-olds already there. So I don't really think, that's going to fill it, but I think we ought to give them credit for trying to work the best they can. But anyway, that's it.
Commissioner Lynn.
Call for the question.
Second. All right. The question has been called for, and by Commissioner Lynn, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. So let's vote on calling for the question. That passes 8-0. Now we'll vote on the amendment to the resolution.
Commissioner Jackson, amendment
Is to add alternatives.
Yeah, and that's to add alternatives to the amendment. That passes 6-2. Now, vote on advancing this to Thursday.
As amended.
As amended. That fails.
It doesn't, it goes to Thursday, doesn't it?
It goes.
1, 2, 3.
That's majority present.
It goes.
That passes?
Yes.
It passed
No, we
because
have to have
the amount of
6.
people in the quorum,
Yeah.
it
No,
passes.
you
It's
have to have a
majority
majority of
present.
the quorum.
Okay, so
And that's-
that passes 5-3.
Watch your Mr. President over there.
If you let me slide.
I'm watching.
Next item.
Next, we move to authorize resolution number 12 of 2019, encouraging Caddo Parish's young people to follow a life script that minimizes their chances of living in poverty.
Move to advance.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Atkins and seconded by Commissioner Middleton. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not trying to poke anybody on the eye on this, and I'm not trying to single out any particular demographic. I just think that it's important that our young people think about the decisions they make and recognize that following a certain life script will much more likely lead to a financially independent life. In my view, that life script is to complete an education, gain employment, obtain a spouse, and only then have a child. And I would just like to see this life script repeated often around our community by our parents and our pastors and our politicians to try to reinforce the importance of taking life one step at a time. I think that it would be better for our young people if that happens, and I think it'd be better for our community if that happens. So for this reason, I'm proposing a resolution. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Atkins. I'm on the board because I totally oppose that any governing body or any politician will tell people, in their opinion, how they should live. Recently, I followed a bunch of threads on social media about this, and all of the threads I saw were basically, how does this commission have a right to do this? First of all, there's nothing that we'll be implementing when we do this. If this was to pass, this is just something that would be out there in the books saying that the commission, as a majority, voted for or voted against. There's a lot of things in people's lives that would prevent them from living this dream of opportunity like this. There were many people that chimed in for whatever reason came about. It could have been some type of hardship that was laid upon them that they couldn't follow this like this. But today they are successful citizens in Caddo Parish. I just don't want us to feel that we're living in this bubble and then all of a sudden saying that this is how we want the citizens of Caddo Parish to be. And the districts that I represent, the people that I talk to, they're totally against any government body, any political person putting this out and trying to do this or impose this upon them. So for that reason, I would be totally against it. Commissioner Milt.
Well, I appreciate Commissioner Atkins bringing this. It rings back in my head, a couple years ago, Commissioner Epperson, he had a document he took into schools and all and encouraged people to have the right attitude. If anybody can help me with that, remind me what it was. But to be a good citizen. And being a good citizen is doing the right thing. Getting your education. This is just something that he did, and this just takes another step, and I commend Commissioner Atkins for doing it and bring this thing in. If nothing else, we're having this discussion, and maybe to get down to some people that really need to know what's going on. That's what needs to be done in our community. I'm tired of seeing people in poverty. I see it all the time, a lot more than you think I do. Been seeing it all my life. I wasn't that much of a rich person anyhow to begin with. I started working when I was 12 years old, 40 hours a week. So I understand how things go. People don't. But after so many years of the, since 1964, if you want to take it to the, I'll just leave it at that. I think we're good. I think Commissioner Atkins is right on board. And again, this is not to poke anybody in the eye. It's just to try to make our community better. If more people would do this, more entities would do this, maybe the message will really get out. It's just like the thing that was pointed out here like 2 weeks ago by Congressman Mike Johnson when I sent him a picture of our plaques that we have. I don't know if anyone's really paid attention to this. Has anyone really paid attention on our plaques on the sides of the walls here? Caddo Parish Commission, In God We Trust. I think this is a godly thing in a sense. I think this is it. I don't know how many people even recognize that being up there. I'd like to see us get a bigger one down here and when we're in session, and hopefully we do that. We'll have to lean on Todd to get that done. I know he watches the books, but I think we can get that done. So that's it for now. Thank you, Mr. Acting President.
All right, Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I would like to amend resolution number 12 to add as a recommendation for eliminating poverty, raising the minimum wage, efforts to provide affordable housing and increasing minority and fair share participation in businesses as a means to reduce poverty. If I can get a second, I can explain.
Second.
My motion, yes. I too when I first saw this on the agenda, and I saw the Kill radio article, and I don't disagree with folks having a philosophical beliefs. I think it was pointed out that Commissioner Epperson had a list of things that he took to the schools. He didn't bring it and put it in the form of a resolution to try to legislate. He took it to the schools. He took it up on his own time and effort to go to the schools and talk about it. For us to come down and tell people what they should be doing, I know countless single mothers who are doing well. I know folks who followed these steps and are not doing well. And so for us to go down this path, I think it's a slippery slope. It's no policy backed into it. It has nothing attached to it. It's just empty words on a piece of paper. And I think it's offensive. It seems almost like we're blaming the victims of poverty at this point, saying, well, you should have did this or you should have did that. A lot of people are born into poverty and they become the environments that they grew up in, or they get successful and they break out of that. My mother did not graduate from high school. She ended up getting a GED, but I by no means would consider her a failure. I would by no means consider us living in poverty. She had her children, her first child, before she was 21. I just don't understand why we as a body would go this route. It is okay for us to have our personal convictions and belief, but when we start coming to try to get a legislative body to legislate that, I think we're going down a slippery slope. And Commissioner Atkins is usually the first person to say we shouldn't regulate business and government should stay out of that. But here we are now telling people what they ought to be doing. So I'd like to, at least if we're going to consider this, if we're going to give this any consideration, that we provide some policies that will help individuals get out of poverty. Raising the minimum wage, we know, helps lift individuals out of poverty. Providing them a break on their affordable, providing them a break with regard to their housing, and creating more homeowners, that lifts individuals out of poverty. That's one of the longest trends of wealth creation known in America, is providing individuals a home ownership, increasing minority participation, having child care assistance. Those are programs that benefit the poor, or individuals who are the working poor. That's what the Alice Report is about. The Alice Report is about individuals who get up, go to work every day and still struggle. It's not about individuals who are not doing anything. And I think we have to have some policies that go into backing this up before we just run out here and say that. I appreciate Commissioner Atkins for his convictions. I listened to the Kill article. I thought the Kill article was fine, but we run down a slippery slope when we start legislating these type of things. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Commissioner Dominic.
Yeah, I want to say a few things, and these are some of the issues that I would be with John. I am on you, for you on this, but this is one of those things that we normally say we shouldn't get involved in. But just wanted to tell you a few things. We are not legislating. We are not mandating whatsoever. It just simply says encourages all of our young people to be patient and follow this script. I mean, I think that's a good script. I mean, it's something that, that was drilled into me, and I follow those. We all know people who have followed this, who've got a high school education, had a full-time job, found a spouse, delayed to 21, but for some reason they were unsuccessful. But the chances are, if you do follow this script, your chances are to get out of poverty is much higher than not. And I think that's simply what he's saying. And we are not making people, we have no legal authority whatsoever to make people do these things. It's just, encouraging. I really don't see what the problem is on that for encouraging. Now, there's a lot of other things you could put in there, just like you said, housing. We could put in there,
I'm
encouraging them not to drink till they're 21, not to do drugs, go to church, vote. I mean, we could put all that stuff in there. But John came up with, I would say, sometimes 4 important things that kind of hits home, and that's what's there, and I'll be voting in favor of it.
Commissioner Atkins, you spoke already once. Commissioner Bowman.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson, Acting President. Commissioner Atkins, I do believe these are great suggestions, and I believe also, as the study says, that there's a 98% chance that a person has a likelihood of not living in poverty if he or she does do some of these items. But I have to just personally say, not personally, but personally and observation, the reality of it is it's just not that easy of a fix. It's not a one-stop fix. Yes, these things are great, but I know people, and a lot of us represent people up here who they did not get a chance to get the high school education.
Sure.
They could not have because the mother was working 3 jobs, and then the older child, be it the son or the daughter, is taking care of the other kids. Finding a spouse, that's great, but there are so many people who haven't gotten married, some who have been divorced, myself. And in the areas, not just what I represent, and just for this demographic that we're speaking of, in a surreal utopia, this would be great for people delaying having children until they're 21. But the reality of it is, in juvenile justice and police department, everyone else can tell you, we have to deal with what we have now, and there's a good sector of certain people, not to stereotype, but based on the Alice report, a lot of the people have already had kids. We're dealing in 2019 with people having kids at 14, 15, 13. I mean, when I taught school for 4 years, 6th grade, 11-year-olds, people are getting pregnant. And there is a cycle, but again, there's not a one-stop fix. And great, but the real issue is lack of resources in the community, lack of exposure for, it's easy for someone to say, go to school and do this, but if I don't have the money or to have resources, or if I don't know how someone in the area is not helping me, kids and people in indigent areas, they face so much, and it's not a 1964 fix. They're dealing with more things than we could ever have dreamed of. And the reality of it is they can't obtain 2 out of the 4 things that we're asking, or that the Brookings Institute report to even provide. We're just at that disadvantage. So yes, this is great, but I would like to see more of programs and things, and maybe seminar, if you have some people who maybe that could help talk about job development, or for those who can't get a high school diploma, do GED programs and things of that nature. But the reality of it is, this sounds great, but for today's day and age, to some people and the people I represent, it would be like a slap in their face. And I've already spoken to some, and I just know so many people who they would like to have found a spouse. They would like to even have gotten a job, and they may get 1 out of the 4, but so many don't have an education, and like I said, a lot of people have kids these days. We have grandparents who are barely 40 these days, and that's just the sad reality of it. And it's just not a one-stop fix, and a lot of people probably would end up being insulted if we pass this. Some of them will.
You done?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Lewis Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is obviously a potentially uncomfortable subject, obviously for a number of reasons. But it deals with, I think, two issues that are just very, very important issues in our community and in our society. And as I looked at the resolution and read it initially, I think I would have had some real concerns if I did not know Commissioner Atkins, number one. So that gave me one area of to consider. And the two areas that I think that this addresses, be it comfortable, uncomfortable, how we view it, and how honest we want to be about it, two areas that that moved me as I read it, and those areas I know are important to each of us. And those areas are one, truth, and number two, youth. It addresses both. It addresses our youth, for whom we unequivocally all have a real concern. And it also addresses truth. So I guess the question becomes whether or not it in this form, does it contain truth or not? And if it does contain truth, then how does that truth affect our youth? I was convicted when I read it because I was having dinner with my daughter less than a week ago, and this, I was afraid that you were at the table. This is nearly a checklist of our conversation to a great degree. So as it relates to each of those, I don't think there's anyone who would not want or who does not embrace these things for themselves and for their communities. I mean, for their family and those people that we care about. I think that we all, and I don't mean to speak for everyone, but I know that most of us embrace this. But as Stephen Jackson said, and I think that my angst with it, if there was any at all, would be that my exception is that these are not the only issues that contribute to poverty. That would be my only concern. And whereas you named a few, obviously there are others. So the question becomes, how do we, if we were to, as a body, move forward to address those concerns? So truth and youth is important. And I think that these things are things that would make a difference in that respect. Are these the only things? They're not the only things. Are there some that would be offended? Obviously there are. But as it relates to what we are proposing or encouraging, if I voted for this, if I did not vote for this, my children, my family, those people I care about, that's what I would encourage. If I do vote for it, it's still what I encourage. So I personally am not offended by it, and probably would be, as I said, depending on who it is that brought it forward. So it's an uncomfortable and an interesting and challenging subject that we're faced with as relates to it. So if we are going to address it, where do we begin? Do we include those other things that Commissioner Jackson have alluded to? I think that's a start. So that's my position on it. And I think it took a degree of both concern and courage to bring it forward, Commissioner Atkins. Thank you.
Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, let me reiterate that this resolution was not intended to offend. I knew it might offend. Obviously, these are very personal and emotional issues that go to the core of who we are. But, I was not attempting to dictate how someone should live their lives. I was just simply encouraging people to consider a path that in my mind might reduce the challenges that those people might face moving forward. I don't have the right to judge people. I'm no saint. I'm not trying to approach this from a moralistic standpoint. I was trying to approach it from an economic standpoint. And a lot of the reasons I brought up was to have these conversations. They're important conversations to have. If we can increase visibility of these issues. Perhaps today we've touched 10 or 20 people that will pause and give consideration to a path that they might take to their future, or in a path that they might not take that would lead to a more challenging future. I'm not saying that that if someone were to violate these 4 rules, that they couldn't have a very productive, contributing, loving, happy life. I just think, in my own mind, there may be a lot more challenges if you pursue a different path than one similar to the one outlined here. So again, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just providing some food for thought for our young people as they think about their future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Well, I know, John, that you're not actually trying to shove this down anyone's throat. But I do know that there are people in Caddo Parish that have completed a high school education. They have went on and got a college degree. Some have gotten multiple degrees. But they still haven't found a meaningful job. Then there are some who have a full-time job. Now, most of the jobs that we have in our city are service jobs, which a lot of service jobs require you to have typically 2 of those. So now, not only do they have a full-time job, they have 2 full-time jobs. Or they working a full-time and a part-time just to try to make ends meet. Then to find a spouse, so that just either add liability or it'll be an asset, one way or the other. Okay? Then delayed having children to 21. So those are what you're encouraging people to do, which is fine. But as a father, as a uncle, as a cousin, as a mentor to youth, these are things that I would be pushing out to them. But to make it a legislative piece, I'm totally against it. So if I'm out talking to kids, yeah, I would push this. I already encouraged this. So this is a starting point for them. But to be sitting here as a legislator on the parish level, I can't support it because now it becomes legislation. And so I don't want to give people the opinion that I'm trying to now force a way of life upon them. That even if they do this, then they're going to be looking at it, okay, well, why am I still in poverty? Why am I still poor? Why am I not being able to make ends meet? I did these 4 things. Do we have an answer? No. Now, what Commissioner Jackson is some of the solutions to some of these problems that, if you do all of this, then you might be able to get some other things going for you. But that still is not a win-all situation. Until we're able to turn our economy around, to get more jobs here that will pay above the median wage, we're just spinning our wheels. Because there are other influences that come about that we're not even discussing. I had a discussion with a guy about maybe 20 years ago. He was a drug dealer. I asked him why didn't he go out and find him a full-time job. He told me it's easy for him to make $1,500 a week selling drugs. Now, that lifestyle doesn't last forever. He was later on incarcerated, but now he has a full-time job. But when you're looking at someone that's a teenager, 19, 20 years old, they're looking at, how can I make that fast money? How can I get out of this rut I'm in? And this is not going to help them. So that's why I can't support this, because I know too many people who have done this and they're still in this rut. Let's see. You spoke. Okay. Milton, you spoke already?
No, not. Call for the question.
Second.
Question has been called by Commissioner Middleton, seconded by Commissioner Dominic. Let's vote on calling for the question.
Okay. We're voting to move it to Thursday?
We're voting to call for the question.
On the amendment.
Okay.
On the amendment.
say, so that passes on calling for the question. Now we will vote on the amendment to the resolution,
Just to encourage.
which is to encourage to add the things that Commissioner Jackson
Raising the
said.
minimum wage,
Providing affordable
providing
housing.
fair housing,
Affordable housing.
affordable housing.
Increasing minority participation in the contracting process.
That fails.
Fails.
Now we'll vote on the original motion.
Question.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, is this to move it to Thursday, or are we voting on it?
Yes.
at this
Move to
point?
Thursday.
Thank
To
you.
move.
I'm on board.
You on the boo? Okay.
Yeah, we
We'll
call for the question on the amendment.
Yeah.
We call for the
Call on
question on the
everything.
amendment.
But then the question called for the amendment or?
I thought-
uh,
For everything.
Everything.
No, that was
It
on
was
the
on
amendment.
Okay, so then.
Yeah, so we back to the original motion now.
Okay.
Well, he called it. Point of order. Didn't you call it for everything?
Yeah.
No.
So-
No.
Yeah, well, let's
So-
just do.
So when we call for the question, we need to be more specific on when you're calling the question
That's
for.
it.
Is it for the amendment or is it for the whole discussion?
Correct.
Okay, so by default, I'll go to Commissioner Jackson for his discussion. That is back open.
Yeah, I just want to say, and I appreciate you, the conversation that we have had. Again, I think if we're going to encourage life skills and we're going to encourage people to do certain things, we need to be about the business of encouraging a well-rounded, well-balanced approach to the issues of poverty. This cites the Alice report, and this cites that these issues lead to individuals becoming a part of the working poor, and that is simply not true. And as Commissioner Johnson pointed out, to legislate that in this fashion, I can, in good faith and in good practice, support it. This is not to say that Commissioner Atkins is a bad person.
Oh, no.
I know it's hard. I know he wouldn't mean anything by it, but was understood shouldn't have to be explained. So I don't know why we have to always say that I'm not intending to offend somebody. If I walk out and Randy slaps me, I'm sure, quite frankly, he doesn't mean to offend me.
If he slapped you, he did.
He might not mean to offend me. Or if he takes my wallet out my back pocket, he might not mean to offend me. But he did. And so things like this come off as offensive, and they are offensive to a lot of people in this parish. And we should not be in the business of trying to regulate that. And so we have to do more than just put words on paper. There's no policy. And, you know, these words, my friends, are going to come back. And they may come back to us sooner or later, where we're talking about the issues of the poor and how you can help individuals who are poor and the working poor in this parish. And I hope your votes line up with what you have put down on this sheet of paper. Because to come down here and say we're concerned about poverty, we're concerned about the poor, and then turn around and vote against resolutions encouraging raising the minimum wage, to vote against ordinances that provide affordable housing, to vote against ordinances that create fair share programs. I mean, it's completely hypocritical to what we're doing here today. And so I want to be on the record as stating that. Thank you, Mr. President. And as we have this conversation about calling for the question, we also need to be mindful that calling for the question is not to shut down debate. We should always be open to hearing each other out. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. And I call for the question on
Second.
this whole resolution, that we vote on it.
Second.
Just to move it forward, correct?
Let's call it
The
the
motion,
question.
the
Just for
motion
calling for the
now
question.
is, it's been moved to call for the question to end debate on resolution number 12. It's been seconded by Commissioner Dominique. All that's ready to vote for the particular call for the question? Vote now.
You've confused me, Mr. President. What are we voting on?
Calling for the question
Okay.
on resolution number 12. That will end all debate on number 12. That passes. Now we will vote on resolution number 12
40.
To move it to Thursday.
to move it to Thursday. If you want to or not.
Yeah, Jackson still want to talk.
That fails. Next item.
All right. Authorize resolution number 13, resolution proclaiming and supporting March 4th through 8th.
Move to advance.
Second.
Been moved by the chair, seconded by Commissioner Jackson to move resolution number 13 to Thursday. Commissioner Jackson.
I would like to englobo and advance resolution number 13, resolution number 4, resolution number 15. and
14.
14, I'm sorry, resolution number 13, resolution number 14, resolution number 15, and if it's okay, the appointments to the Ward 2 Industrial Board, the appointments to Caddo Parish Sewer Board number 7, the appointment to the Pine Hill Waterworks District, and authorizing Mr. Joe Mann, I'm sorry.
Second.
Lord. Thank you.
It's been moved and second to englobo resolution 13, 14, 15, the appointments. There sees no one on the board. Let's vote. That passes 8-0. Next item.
Next we move to committee reports.
Yes.
Commissioner Dominic. you on
Yeah,
the board?
I wanted to say, when the meeting first started over, I was gonna make a motion that you be the permanent president, the way everything was going, but obviously we got bogged down in two controversial issues, so I think we need to put someone else in there next time
Hey,
Stormy's not here.
We still good though.
You-
Still a good
true.
time. Still a good time.
Yeah, we're having a good time.
No, we still at a good time.
Yeah, I'm having a good time. Let's go ahead.
Commissioner Glenn.
I want to say thank you to the community, everybody that showed up for the Cruel Highland Masquerade Ball and the parade Sunday. The Shreveport Police Department did a fantastic job of keeping everything safe and secure. We had quite a bit of change with the consent decree and the sewer changes and moving our lineup, and it created a bottleneck and a lot of pain and anguish in the beginning. If I screamed at anybody, I certainly apologize on behalf of myself. I know a lot of the police officers also screamed, and it was all just trying to keep everybody safe and secure and to ensure a good parade. Once we got that initial bottleneck free, everything went very smoothly, and we had a fantastic parade. And thank you for the weather. Thank you, God, and thank you all of the people that showed up and caught lots and lots of bees. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Acting President.
All right, Commissioner Lynn. Next item.
Next we move to citizen comments, late arrivals.
I have none.
I have none either, sir.
Move to adjourn.
Second.